The Lost Year by Katherine Marsh. First Chapter Friday read aloud video with the Word Nerd. Today, as you listen, play along. Watch for the story quote that will appear on screen. Write it down word by word and then follow the instructions given to you by your teacher. Stay all the way to the end to see if you've written it down correctly. Teachers, real quick, check the links in the description box for this video for some student engagement worksheets. Your students can use these to help them zone in on the video instead of zoning out.
Hi, my name is Zieba. Welcome to my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd, and another First Chapter Friday video. This week, I'm going to be reading to you from The Lost Year by Katherine Marsh. And before I do that, I just want to say this is the last book that I am recording for 2023, which means that I have gotten to the end of 3 full years of recording a First Chapter Friday video every week. That is 156 First Chapter Friday videos. And I'm so excited that I made it this far. I'm even more excited than that, though, you guys. I'm excited that you're here and that you like these videos and that you keep coming back week after week to listen. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me into your classroom. Thank you for sharing this time with me. It's been awesome. And I'm not going to flip my camera around so you can see how messy my office is, but I have literally stacks of books all over my office because I'm planning for 2024 and I can't wait for you to see which books I have picked out. The other kind of funny thing is the Lost Year, as I was putting it up on my letterboard, it's kind of like the last book of the year, so kind of funny play on words there. If this author's name sounds familiar to you, Katherine Marsh, or the book cover even looks a little familiar, it's because earlier this year I read this book, Nowhere Boy, on the channel. I kind of feel like these book covers are siblings. They've kind of got like the same colors, the same kind of like tense vibe. And they're both fantastic. Let me tell you a little bit about this book. 3 cousins, 2 continents, 1 haunting secret. That's what pulled me into this story past the author's name. Once I knew she wrote it, I wanted to read it. But my cousins are some of my favorite people on the planet, and there aren't a ton of books about cousins, so I knew I wanted to read it. And then once I got into the story, I was sucked in. I read this over winter break in like 3 days. Fantastic. Let me read you the inside so you know what it's about, and then we will get rolling. 13-year-old Matthew is miserable. His journalist dad is stuck overseas indefinitely, and his mom has moved his 100-year-old great-grandmother into their house to ride out the COVID pandemic, which only adds to his stress and isolation. But when Matthew finds a tattered black and white photo in his great-grandmother's belongings, he discovers a clue to a hidden chapter of her past, one that will lead to a life-shattering family secret. Set in alternating timelines that connect the present day to the 1930s and the US to the USSR, Katherine Marsh's latest novel sheds fresh light on the Holodomor, the horrific famine that killed millions of Ukrainians, which the Soviet government covered up for decades. Inspired by Marsh's own family history, The Lost Year is an incredibly timely, page-turning story of family, survival, and sacrifice. So just right there in that blurb, there are so many things that could draw us into the story. Some of us like books that are told in multiple points of view. Some of us like books that take place in the past, historical fiction, so we can learn something new while we're being entertained by a story. Sometimes people like to read books about hard things, like it can be heavy while you're like in the story, but it's also helpful to know how people have navigated those hard times and like know that you're not alone and that you can make it through. That's like my favorite thing about books. So I'm going to read you chapter 1 of The Lost Year. Side note, I recorded this whole video, guys, without my microphone, and now I'm having to do it again, but that is just how much I love you. Okay, at the beginning of each chapter, you'll get the chapter number, chapter 1, who is telling the story from their perspective, a little graphic that will kind of give you a hint about the scene and what's coming ahead, and then the location and the year. So chapter 1 is told from Matthew's perspective. There is a Nintendo Switch right there, and then he is currently in Leonia, New Jersey, United States, in the year 2020. Dark beast Ganon charged. I aimed the bow of light at the monster's glowing core and jumped. I shot off one arrow, then another. Yes, yes, Zelda encouraged me. Ganon's power is weakening. A few more direct hits with the bow of light and I'd finish off the biggest, baddest boss of all and unlock the ending to the entire game. But I was down to half a heart. I needed food. and fast. I ran out of lives. Or I needed food fast before I ran out of lives to fight. Matthew? I searched my meal inventory. I'd eaten all my steaks and almost everything else. Matthew, Mom shouted. She was standing right over me. Coming, I said, without making a move from the couch where I was curled in a ball around my switch. Time to go outside. Wait, I still had a mushroom skewer. You've been playing Zelda for 5 hours, my mom said. I selected the skewer. I know, I did my homework this morning. I wasn't even lying. For an entire month now, since COVID had been around, I wasn't even lying. For an entire month now, since COVID had closed all the schools, I'd been doing online learning in my bedroom. But I usually polished off all my homework while the teachers barked at the kids to turn on their cameras or to stop goofing around in the chat. Everyone else was stuck at home too. School, sports, birthday parties, everything was canceled. But most of my friends could at least hang out in one another's backyards and spend an hour feeling normal. I wasn't even allowed to do that because a few weeks earlier, Mom had moved my great-grandmother out of her nursing home and into ours. Her name is Nadia, but we all call her Gigi for great-grandma, obviously. She's 100 years old, which means we can't take any risk when it comes to COVID, including inviting a friend over into our backyard. It's not about that, Mom said. You need to come back to planet Earth. No thanks, I said. Planet Earth was the last place I wanted to be. I was basically under house arrest with Mom and Gigi. Don't get me wrong. I love Gigi. When Mom and I used to visit her in the nursing home, she'd always slip me 3 Musketeers bars. She'd never been a big talker, even before her stroke, but I didn't mind. We'd just smile at each other while Mom asked the nursing home aides a million annoying questions to make sure they were treating Gigi right. Her moving in with us hadn't made her any more chatty, and she didn't smile much anymore. She spent a lot of time in bed watching TV or staring off into space with a gloomy expression. When she had a work Zoom, Mom sometimes made me deliver Gigi's meals. Weird stuff, like oatmeal with stewed prunes. It was always a relief to get back to the living room couch and Zelda. Link, my avatar, had woken up after 100 years and was on a quest to regain his lost memories, so he could free the kingdom of Hyrule from Dark Beast Ganon. He was constantly on the move, traveling all around Hyrule, collecting magical objects and fighting monsters, not living the same depressing pandemic day over and over again. I scarfed down the mushroom skewer and Link's energy shot right up. I was back in business. I'm coming, Zelda. I raised the bow of light and aimed, and that's when Mom grabbed my switch out of my hands. I hollered and jumped to my feet, but since I'd been lying there for so long, my ankle gave out and I stumbled. Mom sighed. Your muscles have all atrophied. No, you can't do this. I'm almost done with the entire game. Her expression didn't change. Why did I think this would mean anything to her? Dad was the one who used to play video games with me at his place, but that was before he left for his big important job in Paris. Mom pointed to the back door. Out. As the feeling came back to my lower legs, I thought about trying to grab my switch and making a run for it, but Mom looked even more ready to fight than Dark Beast Ganon. Just let me save my game, I pleaded. Mom wasn't about to hand over the switch. Tell me what to press. There was nothing more nerve-wracking than watching Mom poke at my tech. I was terrified she was accidentally going to erase the whole game. I made her hold up the screen and made sure she'd done it right. How long do I have to go out for? I asked. I expected she'd start with half an hour and I could negotiate her down to 15 minutes, but she already had it figured all out. I need to do a quick grocery run before Jack calls to nitpick this story. Mom was an editor at a weekly magazine run by some guy named Jack, who was always complaining about everything. Gigi's napping, so I want you out till I get back. Or I could just stay on my couch and be completely silent with Zelda, I said. Nice try, Mom said and held up my switch. I'm taking this with me. That's child abuse, I said. I was only half joking. What was I supposed to do outside all by myself? I pulled out my phone to text my best friend Josh for moral support. SOS, Mom took my switch. And no phones outside either, Mom said, holding out her hand to confiscate it. I want a screen-free visit to the great outdoors. Mom suited up in a mask, face shield, and gloves and marched me deviceless out the door. At that moment, I really hated her, but it wasn't like I could run off and live with Dad. He had taken this newspaper correspondent job in Paris, and because of stupid COVID, the borders had closed. I couldn't visit him, and if he wanted to keep the job, he had to stay there. Otherwise, he might not be allowed back in. We had a decent-sized backyard with a deck jutting out from the guest bedroom, Gigi's room, a couple of soccer nets, and a tree swing. But hello, I was 13, not 7. Plus, kicking around a soccer ball by myself got old fast. I wandered into the garage, hoping to find something to do, and that's when I spotted the box Dad had given me before he'd moved to Paris last fall. He'd said it was stuff I'd kept at his Brooklyn apartment, and with some other sports equipment he couldn't take with him on the plane. The first thing I saw was our baseball mitts. Mine was nestled inside Dad's bigger one, and just looking at that made me think about the last day of fall. Dad and I were in Prospect Park, and there were tons of people there, none of them wearing masks or face shields or jumping into the bushes to get out of each other's way. Instead, everyone was having picnics and cheering for these little kids playing pee-wee soccer and stopping to say hello and letting their dogs sniff each other. Dad and I were tossing around the ball, nice and easy, not even talking, just enjoying the thwack of the ball against our gloves, the sunshine, that the fall smell, the dry leaves. Afterward, we walked to Peppino's Pizza, this place we both like. We watched the Yankees crush the Red Sox on their TV and polished off an entire extra large pepperoni pizza. Remembering that day made my chest tight and tingly. I picked up her gloves and pulled them apart, and that's when I noticed what was lying beneath them. The bow of light. Okay, it wasn't actually the bow of light, but it was a real bow, and there were some arrows scattered beneath it. The tips were blunt, but they could do more damage than your Action suction cup toy arrow, judging from the warning label on the bow in bright red print. Adult supervision required. I dug through the recycling bin for some empty cans to build my own Dark Beast cannon, or Dark Beast Cannon, I renamed it, because he was, well, made of, cans. But Mom had been hoarding beans and soup for the end of the days, just like everyone else freaked out by COVID, so there weren't a ton. I had to use empty Ensures, nothing as scary as a monster made of old people nutrition shakes, and even then it wasn't even exactly a fearsome size. To give Dark Beast Cannon a little more height, I pulled the metal cafe table to the edge of the deck and arranged his can body on top. Then I crouched behind the big azalea bush in the backyard with the bow of light and pretended to be Link, cheered on by Zelda to fight. Go, Link. Aim for the glowing points, I said in a high, Zelda-like voice. Goofy, I know, but it was fun, especially when I leapt out from behind the bush, strung the arrow into the bow, and let it fly. Dark Beast Cannon collapsed with a loud, satisfying clatter, and cans rolled across the deck. Looking back, this was probably what roused Gigi. But at that moment, I wasn't thinking about her at all. I wasn't thinking about anything. Not Dad, the pandemic, Mom taking away my Switch. I was free of all that, back to being a hero on a quest, the destiny of the kingdom in my hands. I rushed onto the deck, gathered up the cans, and remade the monster. Then I retreated behind the azalea bush and reenacted a long conversation between Zelda and Link. I got myself so fired up that when I finally jumped from the bush, I shot the arrow before really looking. At first, this didn't seem like a big deal. Maybe I'd dock myself half a heart for bad aim. But as I followed the arrow's path, I realized it was headed past Dark Beast Cannon and straight for Gigi, who stood in the open door. Gigi, I shouted. But it was too late. There was a loud plink, and the next thing I knew, her pants were covered in brown liquid. For a heart-stopping, panicked moment, I thought I'd shot my great-grandma. Before I remembered that blood was red and not brown. And that's when I noticed the can at her feet. I hadn't hit Gigi, but the chocolate-covered Ensure she'd been holding. Gigi looked from me to her Ensure-drenched pants and gave a funny little laugh. This startled me almost as much as having shot at her. She hardly ever laughed. I'm sorry, Gigi. Oh, I'm so sorry, I yelled. Hold on, I'll get a towel. Just then, Mom's car pulled into the driveway. The car door slammed, footsteps hurried toward me. I tossed the bowl of light into the bushes, or at least that's where I was aiming, when I popped up and it landed at Mom's feet. It took Mom about 2 seconds to figure out what had happened and immediately sent me to my room. I could hear her helping Gigi into clean clothes and stomping down to the basement to throw her pants in the watch, and then she barged into my room for a talk. Your great-grandmother's here so we can keep her safe, not so you can use her for target practice, Matthew, she said. Truth be told, I was pretty shaken up by the whole incident myself, but Mom made it sound like I'd lined Gigi up for execution. I'm really sorry, I said. I wasn't trying to hit her. I didn't even know she was there. Mom gave me the stink eye. Did you look, Matthew? My inner lawyer was telling me not to answer this, so instead I said, she appeared out of nowhere. Right, Mom said. That great-grandmother of yours is a real ninja. It was an accident, okay? I apologized to her right after it happened. She was fine. She even laughed. If Mom hadn't been so hell-bent on making me feel like the world's biggest jerk, I might have asked her why she thought Gigi had laughed. It was almost as if being shot at had lifted her spirits, but Mom barely seemed to be listening to me. She's 100 years old, Matthew. You could have hit her in the eye or knocked her off balance. I said I was sorry, I muttered. Mom didn't seem to hear this either. You shouldn't even been playing with that bow and arrow, she continued. I've texted his father why he left it. It's not Dad's fault. No, she agreed. It's yours. Okay, I'm sorry. I really am. It was a stupid thing to do. I waited a beat to show her I really meant it. And then I said, Can I get my switch back now? No. But I went outside and I apologized. I'm sorry, Matthew, but you need a break. A real one. What? I was this close to finishing Zelda. Stay calm, I told myself. How long? I swear she gave me this evil genius smile. 2 weeks. I doubled over as if an arrow had hit me in the gut. But, Mom, Dad would never do that. Mom shrugged. His house, his rules. My house, my rules. But I can't even go to his house anymore, I shouted. He's on another continent. I'm sorry, but you're stuck with us, Matthew, Mom said. But your screen time has been out of control. You need to detox. And since you seem to enjoy digging through other people's boxes, I'd like you to spend time with your newfound hobby, helping Gigi go through her boxes. You mean the boxes in her room? Exactly. Practically every evening, Mom declared that today was the day she was going to go through the boxes which Gigi had kept in storage at the nursing home. But practically every evening, Mom collapsed on the couch at 9:30, saying she was just too exhausted to start. It would be a good activity for the two of you, she added. I tried to imagine what was in them. False teeth, expired coupons, ancient underwear. Boy, was I regretting live-action Zelda now. I didn't want to sit in that dusty, sour-smelling room and ask Gigi about her stuff. I wanted to see my friends. I wanted to see my dad. I even wanted to go back to middle school, and who'd thought I'd ever think that? But there was nothing I could do. My panic must have become visible, though, because my mom's face suddenly softened. Once you've finished helping Gigi go through her boxes, we can discuss getting your switch back. Okay? And that's where chapter 1 ends. Oh my gosh, you guys, so good. Chapter 2, just so you can see these alternating perspectives, is from Mila's perspective. It takes place in Kiev, Ukraine, in the USSR in 1932. And I'm not totally sure what this picture is of, but I'm sure you will find out when you read this book. And I do hope you continue reading it. You know all the places you can find it. And again, thank you for being here, not only for this first chapter Friday, but for all 155 of the other ones. And if I turn my camera around right now, you would see that my office is a disaster. These are the only books that look pretty. Behind me, I have stacks and stacks of books so that I can plan out what we're going to read together in 2024, and I hope you will join me there. I'll see you again next time, guys. Happy reading.
To continue reading The Lost Year by Katherine Marsh, pick up a copy from your school library, purchase one from your favorite local indie bookstore, or if you can't find it there, grab it via the link in the description box. Then be sure to check out the rest of the First Chapter Friday playlist. I have over 150 videos waiting for you there. This week's mystery manuscript quote says, "Stories are powerful, but even more powerful is the act of sharing them." Thank you so much for visiting my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd. I hope you come back again for more great content like First Chapter Fridays, brain breaks, teaching tips, and more. You can find content from me at these great places online. See you again next time. Happy reading.